Thank you for coming tonight to the City of Anderson Planning Commission. We will start tonight with an invocation with Maurice McKenzie.
Thank you. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and thank you for all the blessings that you provide us each and every day. And this evening, we come to you asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we discuss items that help shape our community. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Hopefully everybody was able to receive their packet and be able to look through the minutes from the May 3rd meeting. Did anybody see anything that jumped out at them? No. Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion they be approved? So moved. Second by Herbert. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. We do have an addenda to the agenda, election of officers.
Correct.
And I make a motion that if everyone's okay with it, we keep the officers the way they are. So move. All right. A second. All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Public hearings. RZ 2205.
Okay, thank you. This property is located at the corner of East River Street and Clark Lane. This is East River Street as you're heading out toward Felton. This is Clark Lane located here. The property we're talking about is 9.31 acres. You can see how it's carved out like so. The current zoning is NC Neighborhood Commercial, and the applicant is requesting to rezone this property to PDD Planned Development District. And the applicant's requesting to get this rezoning so they can construct townhouses on this property. As a matter of fact, in the NC zoning classification, you can build townhouses on the property, but they're coming to us with a PDD classification, which gives them more development flexibility, and in fact, it gives the city a little bit more teeth in terms of aesthetics and things of that nature that conventional zoning may not normally allow. The current zoning of NC allows up to 8 units, townhouse units per acre, so that equates to about 74 units. The applicant's requesting 89 for their submitted PDD document that's in your packet, and that's about 9.6 units per acre. And one other development detail that varies from our conventional zoning is lot width. We're seeing a good bit of this lately with applicants coming in with townhouse developments, but our zoning ordinance requires each townhouse unit to be on lots of 5,000 square feet. And what they're coming to with us tonight is lot size minimums of 1,600 square feet, and that's the minimum. And it's been common with recent townhouse developments that we've seen come into the city under our PDD guidelines that the minimum lot widths are 2,000, 2,200. So this is in keeping with what we're seeing with other developments. The 5,000 square feet per unit is something that we will certainly take a look at when we revise our zoning ordinance, which we will be embarking upon in the next year or so. It may be something that's a little bit out of the norm, particularly because we're seeing so many applicants request a smaller lot size. And in the PDD document, some highlights I'll touch on. There's a 25-foot perimeter setback along the exterior property, and that perimeter is measured from the property line of the lots to the exterior property line or the right-of-way along Clark Lane and East River Street. They request a 15-foot front yard building setback, a 10-foot secondary front yard setback basically on corners, a 10-foot side yard setback for the end units, and a 10-foot rear yard setback. And let me show you just the general layout. This is also in your packet. This is East River Street. This is Clark Lane. Now, the proposed development will have 3.73 acres of open space and or common area, which is about 40% of the site. The PDD requirements per our zoning requires a 10% open space requirement, so it does exceed that specification. And also the guidelines indicate that this will adhere to the city's new tree ordinance that was adopted, and this lot, if you drive by there, is heavily wooded, so that will certainly come into effect. There will need to be a tree survey, and then following the guidelines of our tree ordinance. So that will be one aspect of this development in terms of preservation of open space and existing tree coverage. The intent of the street network in the development, according to the applicant, is to remain private. If the lots are to be sold individually, the streets at least must be built to public street standards. They can still remain private, but we ask that the streets are built to public standards so we can ensure the quality of those roads. And because the street has hammerhead streets, as you can see, that's the term for these type of streets. We checked with Public Works, so all garbage pickup must be handled commercially, will not be the responsibility of the city of Anderson. Fire trucks can handle this. Sanitation trucks typically do not. That's been our guidelines. I'm just looking at the surrounding zoning. As I mentioned, this is zone NC neighborhood commercial. You see a variety of zoning in the area. This is neighborhood commercial. This is neighborhood commercial. You have multifamily behind you. This is a PDD that was approved within the last year, and it is mainly for townhouse development. You may recall seeing that come through at one point. And across River Street, you have a mixture of uses, commercial, residential, and so on. So this layout, initially you'll see in your staff report that we thought that there was just going to be one parking space in the driveway and no garages, but I just received clarification from the applicant. There will be a one-car garage on each unit, so you'll have one there, and then also with your driveway, it'll give you an opportunity to have 2 off-street parking spaces per unit. One thing we do want to clarify and make sure that it's outlined in the PDD document, it's something that we've had clarification on in several PDD documents, is to make sure that the driveway and everything's long enough so there's no vehicle overhang onto the sidewalks or streets. This can be done a lot of times. There's right-of-way in addition to the 15-foot setback, but that's one thing we would like to see added to the PDD document, or at least cleared up a little bit more. One thing, even though there are 2 spaces per lot, we would like to see some opportunities for other parking, maybe some parking lots or scattered parking around for visitors, and a lot of times people have more than 2 vehicles. That's something that we would like to discuss further to see if that can be enhanced in their guidelines. And one thing, as we do always, we would suggest that there's sidewalks, multi-use paths, things that provide pedestrian connectivity throughout the development. If that's something that can be added, we would certainly support that. But again, in general, the staff recommends approval of this. Just a little bit of clarification with the parking in the driveways and perhaps some off-street parking opportunities elsewhere on the site. The applicant's here. If you have any questions for him, also I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for staff at this time?
Where would an off-street parking be? I don't see much of a place to actually put it.
That would be something we would need to talk to the applicant about. Again, this is a conceptual drawing. This is not the final drawing. So if it's written into the PDD document that they will provide other opportunities, then the applicant can work his magic and find some. And again, we're not asking for a lot, but if you want to address that.
I'm Wesley White. I'm with Ridgewater Engineering on your behalf of the developer. But a couple of options with going private, and we've worked with the engineering department and talked through this with them on a couple other projects, is actually doing, you'll see here, we have the CBU location. They're okay with us actually bumping that CBU location back the 19 to 20 feet and having parking directly in front of it for people to access that. There's also some area for pull-offs where they don't have to back out into the road, and then some of these dead ends here across from lots. So there's plenty of area on the site that I think we can do about at least a 10% increase as well. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Looks like y'all got a lot of work to do to present this even to the city council. A lot of units, a lot of cars in a very short space, and there's only one way in, one way out. That's pretty high density. Maurice, I guess you wanted to throw it to city council, or hoping that they'll get this stuff done, or what?
Again, really the only thing that we would recommend being revised or fine-tuned would be the clarity in the language about the off-street parking spaces in the driveway, making sure there's no vehicle overhangs. That's something that we've seen in other documents. That's something that we could share with the applicant to make sure that's covered. Also, again, as the applicant was just showing some other areas for parking. Those are the two main things. Again, this is zoned neighborhood commercial already. You can already have, without even going to get it rezoned, you can have 8 units per acre. And again, they're asking for 9.6, so it's a slight increase in density.
Yeah, they would have to be sure to explain to buyers about the homeowners association being responsible for the roads, the sidewalks,
Trash.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
trash.
something that would have to be disclosed
Yeah.
in their closing documents, obviously. Yes, sir.
So
And that's in it.
to have this move forward,
And it's actually, yeah, the applicant mentioned it's included in the statement of intent, the PDD document. It does have that statement in there. But again, as people go to purchase it, that would be made clear, sure.
so do they need to come back before us before we say anything about off-street parking or,
You can make a recommendation, again, you can make a recommendation without what I just mentioned. You can go straight ahead as presented, or you can make a recommendation with those conditions being addressed. And my suggestion would be that, anything would be addressed before it goes to city council anyway. That way there's no other holdups.
And for the record, I've reviewed, Maurice shared their recommendations. Our developer has no issues with those. There's actually is a rare instance where there's some sidewalk along the front that we can create some connectivity without much of an issue. Park Lane probably is not quite set up for sidewalk yet, but there is significant sidewalk along the front we can tie into as well.
okay. Any other questions for staff or the applicant?
Are you able to speak to the discrepancy in lot sizes from 5,000 to 1,600 at all? Is this industry-wide? Is this particular development? Or are square footage numbers out of date? Or can you speak to that at all?
Yes, we do, probably in the last year, we've probably done 1,000 to 1,500 different townhomes, just multiple projects, anywhere from 20 up to 200 at a time kind of thing. The industry standard right now is anywhere from 20 to, we are seeing some go up to 30 foot wide as the standard width. Now, what's different about these is normally what you see is around a 20-foot front setback, a 60-foot unit, and then a 20-foot rear setback. We've shrunk that down to this particular unit that they want to go with, and hopefully by the time we go to the council, we'll have some renderings of what that's going to be. It's a 40-foot unit, so it's a little bit more compact, allows for just they go vertical more than stretch it out. So it's a unique. We've looked at the surrounding areas and what the adjacent PDDs are calling for, and we wanted to try to do something different than what the other PDDs are doing. So that's the discrepancy in the area. But yes, essentially the 5,000 square feet, obviously that's pretty much is a no-go on a townhome. I mean, you wasted land. You're just sending somebody, a couple hundred feet back just to get 20 feet. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Maurice, are you seeing the same thing as far as square footage?
Yes, that's what we're seeing with lot sizes now, the widths, and also, like I said, most of the lots we've seen with recent townhouse developments along East River Street as well. They're 2,000 square feet or in that general area. And looking at our zoning ordinance, it is older. We're in the process of revising it, coming up in the next year, like I mentioned earlier. What you'll see with duplexes, just a duplex building. Sometimes in our guidelines, it references a 10,000 square foot lot to have a duplex, which means 5,000 square feet per duplex. Townhouses are a little bit of a different animal as far as how they're attached and how they're in rows. That's why we think that that 5,000 square feet that's indicated in our guidelines, it probably doesn't meet industry standards anymore.
Yeah. But I mean, that is at 30%. It's 30% of what the, what it says on the zoning. You know, we're going down in size.
Correct,
Yeah.
yes. It's a decrease in what the zoning says.
Yeah. Any other questions for staff or the applicant? Hearing none, someone like to make a motion? Hearing none, I will make a motion that we recommend with the staff has gone with general approval with the recommendation of additional off-street parking as well as addressing the overhang for any parking or any issues there. Anything to add?
I second.
Steve, second, and Ron will take you as, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Aye. All right, the ayes have it. That will go before City Council.
In 2 weeks, the second meeting in August.
Okay. All right, moving on to the, outside the public hearings, to other business, SD 2204.
Correct. This is a request for a preliminary subdivision plat approval. And this is located at the corner of Harriet Circle, Crestview, Midway Road. And of course, you are familiar with this. This is part of a larger 131-acre piece of property that was annexed in January of 2021. You recommended approval of this annexation at your December 2020 meeting. And this development is broken down into 4 phases. And this request pertains to the 4th and final phase of the development, and it consists of 28.81 acres. And just to take you back a little bit, because again, there's 3 other phases that you've seen and approved already. Back in August of last year, a year ago, you approved the preliminary plat for the first phase of development, which consisted of about 19 acres and 60 lots. That's the Oaks at Midway. It's actually under construction now, located over here. And 1 month later in September, the Planning Commission approved the plat for the second phase of development, which consists of approximately 37.63 acres and 107 lots, which is called the Meadows at Midway. And then just a few months ago, you saw the third phase of development come before you, which consists of 45.21 acres and 107 lots, which is called the Creeks at Midway. Now, the first 3 phases contain all single-family residential detached houses. This one's a little different. This is for townhouses. I have a common theme going here tonight. But this is the preliminary plat, and again, you have large copies passed out to you this evening. The PDD document, which again, as you know, is a document that outlines specific development details for the property. It does speak to each phase individually. Like I said, the first 3 phases, they're all single-family detached houses. This tract is going to be called the Towns at Midway. In addition to the guidelines in the PDD document, this property is allowed to have either single-family detached houses or it can have townhouse units. As I mentioned, they're proposing townhouse units on this property. Per the PDD document that was approved back in 2021, the minimum allowable lot size is 2,250 square feet, and a maximum of 95 residential units are allowed. But this tract will contain 90 townhomes, so the density and lot size requirements are met. And the lots per that PDD document that was approved are 25 feet in width. And again, as we see in every PDD document, at least 10% must be open space in the development. According to this plat, the plan indicates that 37.6%, which is 10.81 acres, will be open space. I did some math in the PDD document. I know it scares me I did math, but in the PDD document, It stated that a maximum of 450 houses could be constructed in all 4 phases. According to this new plat coming in, when you add up the other 3 phases, there's 364. So it's falling well under what was originally proposed. And this, again, is the final phase of development. Now, when you look at a preliminary plat, you look at some basic things, but everything that needs to be addressed on it, which is like the map drawn to scale, name and location of subdivision, name of the owner and surveyor, date, north arrow, scale. You see all the outline guidelines in the staff report, including the boundary lines of the subdivision. You have street layouts. You have the availability of utilities shown, building setback lines, and all of this is shown on this plan. So we do recommend approval of this, and by doing so, this gives the applicant authorization to proceed under the supervision of the city engineer. We're moving forward with construction drawings, installation of improvements, staking of lots, and moving forward in that manner. And the city engineer will work with the developer on any potential flooding, wetland impacts that may be present. In this particular case, there are none. But we also want to state that any land clearance activities are prohibited in areas where there's no development-related requirements, and preservation of hardwood trees is encouraged when possible in the open spaces. The applicant also passed around before the meeting some renderings of what the product looks like, just for what it's worth, for them for you to see what type of product they're planning on putting on this piece of property. But again, the staff recommends approval of this. If you have any questions for the applicant, they are present as well.
All right, any questions for staff? Any questions for the applicant?
I have a question for staff.
Okay.
Is the school connected to this property at all?
Not this particular piece, but the one beside it is adjacent to the school. I believe that was the last phase we approved. Are you talking about connectivity in terms of pedestrian
Yes.
access? That's something we can let the applicant talk about, because I know they are working on some connectivity between all of the phases, sharing of amenities and things like that. And again, keep in mind that the multi-use path extending from the east-west parkway is being constructed now. If you go down Oak Hill, it will take a left and connect to Midway on that side, Midway Elementary on that side. So again, the applicant can add to that. Sure.
Okay.
So what our hope is that, I don't know if you guys have seen the DOT plans with the roundabouts and all of that, but what we're hoping is that so this is the old Harriet Circle. We're hoping that eventually, as this other development occurs, that we'll actually be able to extend the walking path that they've just completed kind of all the way out to Midway Elementary School. We're hoping that, that this basically this will be an abandoned section right here, that'll actually become a pedestrian trail, so you'd have a nice walkway to get back to the schools and some just connectivity to the east-west, or the walking trails and things like that. But that's going to require some, cooperation with the DOT, and I can't speak for them.
Now, what about, so that would be on the front side, and I guess there's another development between the school and this plat, so you can't really speak to that, but going
we put sidewalks on both sides of the roads.
Okay.
In all of our developments too. So, but our desire would be that there would be some connectivity between the neighborhoods and the walking trail. So, but again, Maurice Mike can handle the DOT for us there, but I think the city is probably on board with that as well. So, but they control that road, not us.
Okay. Well, Maurice, going to that, who has been in control of the east-west connectivity plan and everything like that? Could this be incorporated into that, getting sidewalks down that way?
It's the same group doing
It's
the
the
roundabouts.
same, yes, it's the DOT doing the roundabout, It's state roads.
Okay.
DOT is in charge of the multi-use path. We just need to work with the DOT to ensure that they see the value in that connectivity. And that's
Okay.
one thing that we're going to continue striving for. One good thing is that the DOT, with the proposed roundabouts in this area, they have worked with the developer on what their plans are and working around it. And then likewise, the developer's been working with the DOT because everyone sees the value in keeping traffic flowing with these traffic circles. But again, incorporating the multi-use network is extremely important, particularly when you have 364 units being constructed, in addition to the 150 or so units that are going to be constructed, you know, on the upper side of Midway and Crestview.
And we have some negotiation that they need our property for some of the stuff that they're doing, and so we're hoping that we'll be able to horse trade that and get that. We would like to see that kids could walk to school from there if they wanted to. That would be, you know, safely.
Yeah, we see a lot of value in that from
Yeah.
a staff perspective.
I have another question, and you might not be able to answer this. Is there bus service out to that area?
The city bus service?
Yeah.
It's a good question. If not, what we do is we grow into our urban area if there's a demand, and I can find an answer for you on that, how the bus route works in this area. I can assure you that when the houses come online or when it's, you know, built to a certain percentage, that will certainly be, you know, evaluated, no doubt.
That's a great question. All right. Any other questions for staff or applicant?
Yeah, we've seen the proposals for the roundabout, and has there been any updates this time? Timeframe?
We checked in with the DOT, I don't know, it was a couple of months ago, and they're still in the process of getting things worked out. We're hopeful that we'll see things on the ground in a couple of years, as per their original schedule. I don't have anything set further than that, but it's something we inquire about on a regular basis.
Is there anything the city can do to say that development is going on?
Yep.
And the private dollar is doing a lot better than the public
That's right, it moves a
dollar.
lot, the private dollar moves a lot faster than that,
Correct.
as you are aware of, and that's one thing. And James, it seems like we had a sit-down meeting, a virtual meeting,
Yeah, I mean,
a few months ago.
Yeah, I mean, we've tried to even push the construction ourselves, but I mean, I don't,
Because if you go out Harriet Circle, I know that they're going to end Harriet Circle, but even between the other end of Harriet Circle to Oak, is it Oak Cliff or Oak Hill?
Yeah.
It's awful, and that's what's still going to be open and active. So,
Yeah, and the Oak Hill, as you mentioned, that's a county-maintained road, and so that's not.
great,
state-
so we have another,
Another pot of
Government
money,
entity.
another issue, and
Okay.
it is a conversation we've had with the county on the fact that, hey, you know, this intersection is just as problematic or more, depending on the, you know, peak hours and everything else, but it is certainly on our radar to make some improvements to that as well. You have some narrow roads, limited right-of-way, just a lot of things going on there.
well, I know this group is, this applicant is moving forward with the other plots of land, so I mean, they're going to do the same thing,
Yeah.
and we need to make sure the city, I guess the city, county, and now Department of Transportation are,
Yeah, we will certainly continue pushing, for lack of a better word, you know, with DOT to make something happen on the ground sooner than later.
okay. All right, hearing that, anybody have anything to add or subtract from the preliminary subdivision plat approval?
Move it be approved.
All right, motion to be approved. Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, and they will get with the city engineer on that.
Are these on this?
Since we've already hit the addendum to the agenda, we will consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pretty good. Thank you.